So here we are, it's the middle of April, the Ford Bronco isn't out yet, but let's talk about what news there is, and let's also compare the Bronco against the Jeep Wrangler because that is the closest competitor. Hi, my name is Eric. Let's hang out together for a little bit and do a little A-B comparison between the Bronco and the Wrangler. Even though we don't have all the information on the Bronco yet, I think we have a pretty good sense of what kind of specs it's going to have. As we go through this video, I'm just going to sprinkle in the latest news that we have too. This video is about the mid-size Bronco, the body and frame one. I'm going to do a separate video comparing the Bronco Sport to the Jeep Renegade and maybe something else. Let me know what you want to see that compared to. Let's start with the Bronco and let's start with the engines. Here's what we are pretty sure is going to happen. We believe it's going to have a 2.3 liter EcoBoost. It's a 4-cylinder, makes about 270 horsepower, 310 pounds-feet of torque in the Ranger. In the Mustang, the same engine makes about 310 horsepower and more torque. So I think that we're going to get this 2.3 liter EcoBoost somewhere in the range of 270 to 300-ish. That's going to be the base engine. I think this is almost certainly confirmed at this point. There's another engine which seems to have pretty high degree of confirmation based on all the sources that I've been reading and talking to. It's the 2.7 liter EcoBoost. It's the 6-cylinder. It makes about 325 horsepower and 400 pounds-feet of torque. That's pretty significant. Right now you can find that engine in the F-150. And there is a third engine that is now apparently back on the radar, even though it was sort of off the radar for a little bit, and that is a 3.5 liter hybrid. It's coming from the F-150, the future F-150. Now, we don't know much about this engine, but it is on FordF150Gen.com. It's listed as one of the F-150 engines available. It doesn't really give any more details than that. It is a pretty big engine. Now, of course, the F-150 is a much bigger vehicle than the Bronco is going to be, and the 3.5 liter is not available currently in the Ranger. So my source tells me that Ford had to make some modifications to the Ranger chassis to squeeze the 3.5 liter in there. Now on the Jeep side, we have 5 different engine choices, if you can believe it. We've got 2 hybrids and 3 V6s. I'm going to cover them really quickly. The base engine, of course, is the 3.6 liter Pentastar engine. Makes 285 horsepower, 260 pounds-feet of torque. It's been around for quite a while now, and Jeep has really spent a long time sort of refining this engine and making it pretty reliable. Personally, I think the coolest engine in their lineup is the 3 liter EcoDiesel. It makes 260 horsepower, but 442 pounds-feet of torque. That is a pretty big, beefy engine. As far as I know, Ford doesn't have a diesel planned. There's 2 hybrid engines that Jeep makes available. They're both mild hybrids. One is a 2 liter turbo engine with a hybrid 270 horse, 295 pounds-feet of torque. They've also hybridized the V6. It makes 285 horsepower, 260 pounds-feet of torque. It's almost the same. I'm a little bit confused why they have these 2 mild hybrid e-torque engines. And the base engine, which I think competes really well with the Ford offering, is the 2 liter turbo, 275 horsepower, 295 pounds-feet of torque. So let me know down below what Bronco engine you would choose based on what we know right now. So a little bit of news, the official reveal was going to be on March 17th, which is St. Paddy's Day. I've heard other sources saying March 18th, but as you probably know, it has been postponed right now, and Ford is going to wait until all these travel restrictions lift across the country and they can figure out what their return to production schedule is going to be. Right now, as you know, Ford is producing medical gear, they're producing face masks, and I believe they're working on ventilators as well. Here's another tidbit. The upcoming Mustang, probably the Mach 1, has also been delayed. I did a video on that a couple days ago, and I also did a video on the Shelby GT350 Mustang. It's linked right over here. Apparently that's been canceled. So let's talk about transmissions. We have a 10-speed automatic. It's the Ford 10R80. It's used in a number of different vehicles across the Ford lineup. But what's really interesting is that it seems to be pretty well confirmed, if you can call it that. There's going to be a 7-speed manual transmission. Yay, save the manuals from Getrag Ford. And I did a video on it, which I'm also going to link right up here. It is a very interesting transmission. It's got a low-speed crawler gear, and it can handle a hybrid engine and actually park itself. It's really cool. It's very adaptable and configurable. This is coming from a joint project that Getrag and Ford have together in Germany. Now, in terms of this transmission and the all-wheel drive configuration, the Ford Raptor has something called trail control. It manages your accelerator, it manages the brakes and the torque and all that kind of stuff. So if you're going over difficult terrain or you're going downhill, really all you need to do is steer. I'm assuming that they're going to bring a very similar technology, maybe even with the same name, into the Bronco. Now over at Jeep, we have an 8-speed automatic, and of course we have a 6-speed manual. Now the 8-speed is the ZF8HP. It is one of the most widely used transmissions on the planet right now. It's very good. It's actually in the Supra and a whole number of other vehicles. It's a pretty good transmission. It's pretty well proven. So in the Jeep, you've got something called Rock Track, which is a set of a locking front and a locking rear differential, electronic sway bar disconnect so you can get maximum articulation, and it has a 4.1 low gear ratio. Jeep calls this whole package, they call their package Hill Descent, which is the automated hill descending package, I guess you could say. Now, of course, you can get a 6-speed manual in the Jeep, and I think that's why Ford is really going to provide this Getrag 7-speed with the low rock crawler gear. If you're enjoying this video, please go ahead and subscribe. And by the way, over on Instagram, I'm going to do breaking news in my Instagram stories. So if you want something that is sort of up to date, it's going to be up for just 24 hours. Go ahead and follow me there. If you got tips, also hit me up there. Suspension. Now, this is probably one of the more controversial aspects of the Bronco. It's going to have an independent front suspension. We can see this in the Bronco R, the race version. We've also seen a number of spy photographs with an independent front suspension. Ford, of course, is going to claim it has good articulation. It does have solid rear suspension. Now, in the Raptor, Ford uses Fox shocks. They're pretty expensive. They're pretty sophisticated for off-roading. Let's see what Jeep has. Now, of course, Jeep has got solid front, solid rear suspension. They're well known for that. It has sway bar disconnect in some of the higher end trim packages to give you the maximum articulation. Here's the big difference. The ride quality obviously suffers a little bit in the two-door Jeep. The four-door is a little bit better, but it is very, very capable over rough terrain. Now, the loudest people on the internet are going to tell you that the Bronco is going to fail because it has independent front suspension, but look, here's the reality. You can disagree with me as much as you want. 90% of people are not going to be taking their Broncos or their Jeeps, quite frankly, to the most demanding, the most extreme off-road trails. That's just not how things work. There will be a small percentage of people who want to do that. Absolutely, go ahead and get yourself a Jeep. That is probably the best choice. I believe Ford is aiming this a little bit more at the race community, King of Hammers, people that want to go a little bit quicker, higher speed on trails, and obviously independent front suspension is going to give a superior ride on road. So, of course, that is one of the biggest differences, I think, between the Jeep and the Bronco. Really isn't a whole lot we can say about the interior yet because we don't know what's going to be in the Bronco. We've seen some spy photos, but they're all covered up. The Jeep, you know what it looks like. It's pretty basic, so I'll leave you to decide which one has the better interior. So the wheelbase. Now, of course, we are just taking an educated guess here. The spy photos are shot from a distance, but there is a user over at Bronco 6G by the name of Norwal4. Just for a quick point of reference, the Mark I Bronco, the original one, has a wheelbase of 92 inches on the two-door, and the ND Miata, 91 inches. So the best photos we have so far are of the four-door Bronco outdoors. Our best guess is the wheelbase is going to be about 112 inches, the four-door Wrangler JL about 118 or so, and the four-door Defender almost 119 inches. So if the Jeep Wrangler is its closest competitor, and if these estimates are accurate, and that's a big if, it looks like the Bronco is going to have a significantly shorter wheelbase than the Wrangler by about 6 inches. We don't really have any good estimates for the two-door version yet. Okay, they both have removable roofs. Obviously, you can get a hardtop for the Jeep. It looks like we're going to have a hardtop and probably a soft top for the Bronco as well. That's my guess. Now, Ford has got something interesting going on with this roll cage. Looks like a removable roll cage. There's a number of patents that have been filed on it. It's not entirely clear what we're going to get yet. This is the part that actually is, to me, the most interesting so far. There's been the least leaks around this, so I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do here. Now, the aftermarket. Everybody modifies their vehicles, especially Jeep. Now, Ford is planning to have about 150 accessories available through dealers right away at launch. Obviously, the aftermarket is going to start developing this stuff too, but they're going to be a little bit lagging behind the curve because the people that don't have access to the schematics and the diagrams, the aftermarket folks, aren't really going to be able to start making parts right away. I don't know who's exactly got access to this. We're pretty sure that Yakima, the company that does roof racks, has got access, and they're going to have parts available through Ford. On the Jeep side, obviously there are thousands and thousands of aftermarket parts available because this vehicle has been out for a heck of a long time. I'm finally going to get my t-shirt shop up and running this weekend. I've got a limited number of these in a bunch of different sizes. There's 2 videos up on screen right now. Pick one. My name is Eric, and I will see you in the next video.